Hello and welcome. On behalf of Perry Marshall, I'm Brian Todd. Have here Mike Rhodes, who
Good morning.
it's great to see you, Mike, or at least great to hear you. And we're picking up where we left off from last time. And this month, the theme for our live AdWords training is, as you see here, new AdWords developments for consultants who already know everything, or at least think or feel like they already know everything. And so I think you're definitely going to be in for some interesting material and some surprises today. So I wanted to mention that if you are a member of Perry Marshall's Mastermind Club, then you already get this live training as part of your monthly package, and want to welcome you if you're a Mastermind Club member already. If you are not a Mastermind Club member already, or if you're new and you haven't taken advantage of all the good perks that are part of being a Mastermind Club member, then I want to remind you of what some of those are. We have some terrific resources in the Mastermind Club membership area. First off, there's the Mastermind Forum, a Google group, which is one of the greatest collections of online entrepreneurs like yourself that you will find anywhere in the world. It's a private community, a gated community, as it were, and just the level of intelligence and network strength that you have as being a part of that is unparalleled in our opinion.
And generosity too, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
There's some incredibly generous members in there that spend a lot of time helping each other with problems. It's a good place.
Yeah, and Mike, you're certainly a good example of that, and we have always appreciated your contributions over the years and the level of knowledge that you bring to that. So
Thank you very much.
it's a terrific community. In our members area are loads and loads of old archives and interesting and fascinating resources that you can go dig up at your leisure. And every month we also have a monthly hangout with Perry where you get to see him smiling live on camera, and he fields questions in real time, which is his favorite thing to do. And he often does hot seats as well, where he can help you individually one-on-one with your business while everyone else watches, listens, and takes notes. The next one will be on Friday, November the 7th at 12:30 Central Time in the US. So a lot of great things going on with the Mastermind Club. And as you may already know, our guest is Mike Rhodes, who is now the esteemed co-author of the latest edition of our AdWords book, The Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords. We graduated from accessing 100 million people in 10 minutes to now accessing 1 billion people in 10 minutes. And Mike contributed a tremendous amount to this book to make it up to date, squeaky clean, accurate, and very, very helpful and relevant for you in all that you want to do with Google AdWords and your own business. So, Mike, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you take it from here. It's a treat to have you on, and I look forward to what you have to share.
Thank you very much, Brian. And good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for jumping on the call, everyone. I'm going to start our story with this guy. Born on Australia Day. Very good day to be born. January the 26th in 1961, and grew up playing ice hockey on an iced-over paddock out the back of his dad's farm. And it's actually his dad who said this very famous phrase. It usually gets credited to this guy, but it was actually his dad that taught him this when he was about, I think it was 6 years old or something. So the story goes, and you've probably heard it. Skate to where the puck is going, not where it's been. This guy is obviously Wayne Gretzky, the greatest ice hockey player ever, although the Canadian in my office, who's from Vancouver, may throw things at me if I say that, because apparently there's lots of records that Gretzky broke that people in Vancouver are not very happy about, but it's okay. He is the greatest ice hockey that ever played. Skate to where the puck's going, not where it's been. So where is the puck going? Where is Google going? because Google is changing, but most businesses out there don't realize the extent of this yet. So really what today is about is a little bit about where the puck is going so you can stay ahead of the curve, so that you can take stuff to your clients, or if you're running this in-house, I think the majority of us here are running AdWords accounts on behalf of someone else. So this is all some of the cool new stuff, but particularly around behavioral targeting and the different ways. Real pet subject of mine. I love this stuff. All the stuff that Google is doing to change the way it's targeting. It's moving away from the use of keywords. Now, it's still going to be around for a while, don't get me wrong, but if you look at things like AdWords Express, Google is more and more saying, look, you don't need to worry about keywords, I'll do that for you. Or designing even image ads now by crawling through your site, pulling a few images, grabbing some of the text either from your site or from your best text ads and building image ads for you and say, yeah, we can do that for you automatically. We talked about the call out extensions last month and how they're sort of starting to replace at least description line 2 of the ad, if not the whole ad yet. But that process is starting. Google saying, well, yeah, we'll take care of keywords. We'll take care of writing the ads for you. We'll take care of all your bidding for you. What's going to be left to do here? Certainly, strategy is still going to be important. It's going to be a long time before the computers do that. And I don't want to scare you. If you're just starting up an agency, it's not that this is dead for a while yet. But if you want to stay on the bleeding edge, where is Google going? And more, it's targeting people. And so what AdWords is really becoming is almost persona marketing, of figuring out who your audience is. Google knows an awful lot about them, and it's giving us lots and lots of different ways to target those people. So I'm going to talk about 4 today. Now, remarketing is not new. Remarketing got announced by Google. It was actually about 2 weeks after the Maui Elite event, where Jonathan Mizell was teaching us all about remarketing and retargeting and how you can do this on all these other networks. And it was this voodoo black magic thing. And 2 weeks later, Google said, yep, we're doing this now. So it's been around for a while, but I still see a huge number of accounts that are not making use of remarketing. So we'll at least recap that, if nothing else, to set up the conversation about RLSA down at the bottom there. And I'll talk briefly about the in-market option that you have, which we're having a huge amount of success with for our Google Display Network or GDN clients, and affinity segments. And then RLSA, which stands for remarketing lists for search ads. So you're starting to combine remarketing and search. So we'll start with remarketing, which I think is one of the most powerful tactics that you have available to you inside your account, and still so few people are using it. I was at a private mastermind in Texas a couple of weeks ago with some very heavy hitters, some guys spending a lot of money, and less than half the room, even of those guys that you would think would all be completely on this, less than half the room was using it. Probably less than 1% of AdWords users, AdWords advertisers, are making use of this. And even there, most are doing it pretty badly. So I think we all know this, but let's just have a quick recap. How does this work? You have a new visitor comes to your site. The important thing to note here is it doesn't matter where they've come from. They might have come from an AdWords ad, but they could also have come from a Facebook ad, or via organic, or via referral, or direct, or from an email campaign that you've sent out. Doesn't matter where they've come from. You're not only remarketing to Google AdWords traffic. It's all the traffic that comes to your site. So ideally, these visitors have shown some level of interest. So if you've got an e-commerce site, maybe they've added something to the shopping cart. If you're a lead gen site, maybe they've been to a particular page on your site. Maybe it's the form for the free measure and quote in home or something like that. But lots and lots of these people are leaving without taking action. That's a bit of a shame. We've spent all this money, be it through radio, TV, ads, Facebook, whatever it might be, paying your SEO guy, standing at the booth at the trade show. We've paid all this money to get people to our website. The vast majority, as we know, are leaving without doing what we want them to do. So we're going to cookie them, or if you don't like jargon, we tag them. And tag is actually a nice way to explain this. If you're explaining this to clients, I usually say we tag them. We stick a little flashing beacon on top of their computer so we know who they are. And then we follow them. We stalk them as they wander around the web. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And as they browse around the web, they see our ads, which are designed to attract them back to our website and get them to finish what they started, to get them to purchase that product or fill in that form or whatever it might be. So, very quick example, I was on the Virgin Australia website a while back looking for a flight from Melbourne to Phuket in Thailand for a conference I was speaking at. After I left the site, I was on TripAdvisor and looking at the resort where I was going to be staying, and there, highlighted down the bottom right-hand corner, is a Virgin ad. A very specific ad. It's Melbourne to Phuket flights, because they know precisely what I was just looking at on their site. They know I haven't booked that flight yet, and so they're going to follow me around for probably only for a few days in this case, probably not for weeks and weeks, but follow me around for a few days and remind me that they've got some great prices for the exact trip I want to do that they know I haven't booked yet. At least I haven't booked with them. I may have jumped off and gone to a different airline and booked something, but I haven't booked with them, so they're going to follow me around for a little bit. And if I click that ad, they take me straight back to the best page on their entire site. They've pre-filled in the form and said, okay, yep, we know you were looking at Melbourne to Phuket. Here's all the prices, normal and business class. When do you want to go? So that's remarketing done well, as a quick example. So we've got about 12 different ways that we use this in our agency at WebSavvy. I'm going to walk you through 3 just very basic ones to start with, and then we can talk about some more advanced stuff, because I don't want to scare you off in the first 5 minutes. The easy one is everyone. We remarket to everyone that has been to our website in the recent past. And one of the main reasons that we want to do this is just to stay top of mind with those people. So they've come to our site, they've left after a period of time. We just want to follow them around for the next little while and show ads just to these people, because the behavior they've exhibited is they've been to our site. So we're not going out there and saying, okay, Google, I've got these banner ads that I want to show, and I want to show them to everybody in the United States. Well, that's going to get expensive. There's many, many ways you could target your display ads that we've talked about in the past. Lots of different ways you could do that. What we're saying in this case to Google is just those 20,000 people that have been to my site in the last couple of months, just show ads to those people. When they're on one of these sites that's part of your display network, that GDN, Google Display Network, which is sites like Oprah, the New York Times, CNN, all the way down to lots of little tiny blogs and forums that have all decided they want to monetize their site in some way. They've put a little bit of code on their site that says to Google, we want to put some ads on here. We don't want to think about it. Google, you figure out which ads to show when, and we'll split the cash. Awesome. So our ads are not targeting everybody. They're not targeting everybody that's going to the New York Times. They're not targeting even everybody that lives in Austin that's reading the New York Times. They're just targeting those people that have been to our site recently. And I've seen emails from people saying, oh my God, I saw your ad on Oprah. You guys must be huge. We're going with you. Because you're not showing ads to everybody on Oprah. You're just showing ads to those few thousand people that have been to your site recently. So a great way to look bigger than you are. It's one of the main benefits of this.
And you smile and
Yes.
say, sign here. Happy to serve.
Yes, we are. Great. So then let's go a little bit more targeted than everybody that's been to our site, and just the interested people. So I'll use the example of e-commerce here. We've already sort of mentioned that briefly, but the abandoned cart people, because of all of the people that you could go and market to. So we've got everybody in the world, everybody in your state or your town, everybody that's been to your site in the last few weeks. Well, what's better than everybody that's been to your site? What about just those that showed significant interest, i.e. they've put a product into the shopping cart, but they've left before they've bought? And so those abandoned cart people are, of all the people we could show ads to, the most likely to be profitable. So we show remarketing ads to this group of people, and I'll explain exactly how to do that in a little bit. This is the stuff that's most likely to make us money. And usually remarketing is so easy to make profitable, it's almost cheating. It is without doubt. Next to your running ads for your own brand, and I know some people still, for some reason, don't like doing that, but next to running ads for your own brand, this is going to be the stuff that is the next most profitable campaign that you can run. So if you're starting work with a new client and they haven't got remarketing installed, this is an easy win. And our third main group of people, and I'll show you another way that we can use this group in a little bit, are the people that took action. So our buyers, those people that converted. So if somebody has been through the shopping cart, they didn't abandon the cart, they have gone through the credit card page and the shipping details and so on, and they've landed on our receipt page, well, then we can build an audience, which is what this is all about, building audiences of groups of people with different behaviors. And this little list is people whose behavior is they bought stuff from us. Well, now we could choose to do a couple of things. We can either choose to completely stop showing those guys ads because they've bought and maybe we don't want to waste money, or we could follow these guys around and upsell and cross-sell other products and services. There's a wonderful book by Jay Abraham called Getting Everything You Can Out of Everything You've Got. He, for me, is one of the best minds on different ways to upsell and cross-sell. So if you haven't read Jay's book, I would highly recommend the $13 odd that thing costs on Amazon, and go and read that. It's a wonderful resource. And for the lead gen sites, obviously this is people that have made it to your thank you page. So they've filled in that form, they've landed on the thank you page. So really important that you do have a thank you page for a number of reasons. In fact, I will stop for a moment and talk about that. I see so many lead gen sites in particular where when you fill out the form, you stay on the same page and a little message, usually in green, that pops up and says, "Thanks very much, we'll be in contact soon." Well, that sucks for two reasons. One, it sucks for the user. It's a bad user experience. These are one in, let's say, 20 people that have put their hand up and said, "I want to deal with you. I'm not just anybody that's been through your site. I've taken the time to go fill out this site, and that's how you treat me. Thanks, we'll be in touch soon. Now, please bugger off and get off our site," is essentially what you're saying to those people. Not very nice. What you want to do is create a specific thank you page for those people. One, to improve that user experience, because now you can start to talk about what's going to happen next. You can start to preempt what's happening next. You can start to set up the phone call that's about to come. You can start to make these people feel good about dealing with you. This is the 1 in 20 person. These are your hyper-responsive customers. These are the people you want to look after. So a great thank you page, maybe with a little video that says thank you for taking the first step. Something that tells them what's about to happen next. Tina, or one of our team, will be in touch. She'll call you within the next insert time frame here. Insert a time that you know you're going to beat. If you know you're going to call them within 2 hours, tell them you'll call them within 4, and then beat that expectation. If you can't wait, here's our phone number. Hey, awesome, thanks for taking the first step. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. That's a great place to put your social icons, is on the thank you page. They've taken one little step, now give them another little step, because commitment and consistency that Cialdini talks a lot about will now kick in, and they will go and do other things that you ask them to do. But the second huge reason for having this thank you page is for tracking purposes. One, so that you can put your AdWords conversion code on that page and you can measure the number of conversions that you've got. We're going to talk a lot more about conversions next month. But two, now I've got a place where I can put my remarketing code as well. So I can start to build up a remarketing list or an audience. It's the same thing, I'll use those terms interchangeably. An audience of those people that have been just to that thank you page. Because to get to that thank you page, I've had to successfully go through one of those forms. So that's a subset of all of my visitors that I'm really interested in. They're my most valuable visitors. So let's talk a little bit more advanced. And I'm not going to go really deep into this, but it is worth knowing. And this is a different way to build your remarketing lists. So I'm going to show you in detail how to go build your remarketing lists in AdWords in just a sec. The constraint within AdWords is that all of your remarketing lists are based on the URL of various pages that people have been to. So, for instance, the URL contained /cart. That means they've been to the shopping cart. The URL contained thanks. Well, that means they've been to our thank you page. But it's all URL based, which is a little bit limiting. Inside Google Analytics, there's obviously many, many, many ways, over 100 ways to slice and dice your visitors, to look at different behaviors of the way that your visitors work through your site. So all of those dimensions and metrics that exist in there, we can use to build remarketing lists. So how would you do that? Have a look at the middle column on this one. So you've got 3 columns in your administration area of your Google Analytics. In the admin bit, you get to that through the top, you've got 3 columns: account, property, and view. In that middle column, which is the property that you have, then you've got a little remarketing thing in the middle there, remarketing audiences. And if you click on that, you can build different audiences based on a whole bunch of different reasons. Now, this is getting more advanced. I'm not going to go really deep into this today because, again, I don't want to melt your brain. I'm just going to give you one example here of something that you could do. And here what we've said is the condition here. So, again, we're looking at behaviors, different behaviors that people have. And how I might have found this, I might have been trawling through analytics earlier and said, oh, here's a really interesting story in my analytics. And rather just tell the client, hey, there's this group of people over here that these people that spend more than 5 minutes on your site, they buy in really, really good amounts. So rather than just know that, how can we use that information to our advantage? Well, we can build a little rule inside of analytics here. And here we're saying, if the session duration, in other words, have they been on my site longer than 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes? If they do that, then I want to build a remarketing list around that. So here's the condition. When that happens, when that condition is met, then add them to my remarketing list. So now I've got many, many more ways of targeting. All sorts of fun things in here. You could build remarketing lists just from people that have come to your site via Facebook, or just people that have come to your site who live in New York, or just people that have read 7 or more pages of your blog, or people that viewed the shopping and the returns policy pages, people that have looked at least 12 pages on this visit and they've gone really, really deep into your site, people that spent more than X number of seconds. So many, many different ways there. That is a whole another hour conversation for another day. I just want you to know it's possible at this point. I'm not going to go massively deep into that. So go on.
So if I can just mention, you've talked about this in other trainings, obviously, but this is a good time to bring this up. When you have someone in your shopping cart and they abandon the shopping cart, they can be a really good prospect for really sensibly applied remarketing, and they can also be a prospect for very foolishly applied remarketing, right?
Yep.
You don't want to broadcast messages to people who've gone through your shopping cart posting ads that say, hey, you were about to buy something on my website and then you left. What happened?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like going on a date with a nice guy who's, just a nice guy and you're not all that interested, and then the following week he's like posting stuff all over your Facebook wall saying, hey, we had a great date, when are we going to go out again? That could be pretty oppressive. So
Definitely.
I just wanted to mention that. I know you talk about this in other trainings.
I do talk about it a little bit later too. I've got a little bit about that here, but yeah, that's a really good point, and it's worth mentioning at this point as well. Is you want to reduce the creepy.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be too creepy. I've seen messages, remarketing messages from people that, yeah, exactly that. Hey, you were just about to do this. And this is why Google doesn't allow remarketing in certain industries. Anything that it thinks is going to be of a sensitive nature. And there are some things that are not on Google's list. Divorce lawyers is one. If you're a divorce lawyer, you probably don't want to use remarketing because you don't know which computer that person is using, and that could be quite awkward down the track. But generally, the golden rule is to never refer to what you know, just talk about the next step. Mm-hmm. So talk about the fact that these products are still available, not about the fact that I know that you spent 12 minutes looking at my site, looking at this exact product. Right. Remarketing, and stop advertising to people once they've bought. David Jones is a large department store, kind of like a Macy's, here in Australia. And I was looking at some wine glasses recently, and I was, what are they, $49.95, so I'm 5 cents short of the free shipping. So I thought, well, go on then, I'm a cheapskate. I'll find something else that's cheaper than the cost of the shipping. And they had Play-Doh for sale. My daughter loves Play-Doh, so I bought some Play-Doh. And for the next 4 weeks, this ad with Riddell wine glasses and Play-Doh, which is kind of an unusual combination, so I knew they were remarketing, is following me around. But I'd already bought the damn stuff. Now, if they were smart, if they'd read Jay Abraham's book, if they'd thought about remarketing and upselling and cross-selling, they should have been following me around with the ad for the Riddell carafe or for the wine fridge or the, I don't know, the $200 Cinderella Play-Doh set that I'll probably have to buy at Christmas time. If they were smart. That was remarketing done badly.
So you're not saying once they've purchased from you, don't ever remarket to them again. What you're saying is once they've purchased from you, change what it is you're offering.
Yeah, it's psychology 101. It is think about the behavior that they have demonstrated and what message should I show this group of people that all exhibit this common behavior. And if the common behavior is they've bought from me, well, what else can I show them? And you might want to test turning ads off for a bit and not show me any ads for a few weeks and then turn ads on for the upsell and cross-sell so it doesn't look quite as contrived, because maybe you if you're a retail store, look at your typical sales and the girl at the front till will probably tell you, well, like I know that most people, they probably wouldn't be rushing back in the next day. They say things like, oh yeah, we were here 2 months ago, we bought this. That information, that intelligence lives inside your business somewhere. It's really just having a little think, using some grey matter, and treating different people differently. As one of my mentors says, treat different people differently.
Very good. It's a good, and I like that phrase, reduce the creepy. So very helpful.
Reduce the creepy. So in market, now speaking of creepy, good segue. This may freak you out a little bit, but you already know this, especially amongst this group. We know this. Google knows an awful lot about us. It is tracking everything. One of the things it knows, based on your recent search behavior. So based on the searches that you have done, the websites that you've been to, the propensity to go to certain types of website, and the amount of time that you spend on those websites compared to the average person, Google has got a pretty fair estimate that you're in the market for certain things. And there's a pretty big list. So I'm just going to show this initial list here, and then a little later I'll show you where to go into your account to go find this, because this is going to be different for every single person on the call. But you can probably see at a glance roughly which top-level category here your business fits into. I know we've got a few financial services people on the line. We've got a few cars and vehicles people. And we've definitely got a few property people or home and garden. See, then you dig into this and dig deeper. So you click on one of these, dig deeper, dig deeper, dig deeper. But Google has decided that Mrs. Jones is in the market for a home loan right now based on her search history. So this is almost as good as being able to place a remarketing cookie on somebody else's website, or to be technically correct, sorry, I should say the remarketing pixel. The cookie is what you drop, the pixel is a bit of code that you put on there. Let's not worry about the jargon. You're being able to remarket on someone else's site because these people probably haven't been to your website yet, because if they had, they'd be on your remarketing list. And you'd be remarketing to them because that's where you want to start. But once you've got remarketing sorted, you've got that dialed in, now move on to other ways of behavioral targeting. And being able to target based on this behavior that you've never heard of this person before, you have no idea what they're interested in, but Google knows, based on all of that search history and that browsing history, that right now Mrs. Jones is in the market for a new home loan. And it won't be perfect all the time. Google gets things wrong. We know that. This is all algorithmically done, and they're constantly learning and tweaking those algorithms, but they're getting pretty bloody good at that. Find in this list, and there's 321 of them in total, find something in there that's a pretty good match to you. Just start with one or two. Don't go crazy, and test this out, and I'll show you how to build that. But this is a really, really good behavior to go after. This is working really, really well for our display network clients. And similar to in-market is affinity segments. And this is much more like the TV buying and how TV buying has been done for a long time. So it's a similar looking list, but you'll notice that it's actually a little different, and particularly around the wording that they use for this. So again, this is based on what Google knows about Mrs. Jones, and based on her browsing history and the websites that she goes to and how long she spends there and all of that stuff. Again, rather than being in the market for something right now, she has an affinity with this. She is a foodie or a fashionista or a beauty maven or a savvy parent. There's another one here. So not quite the detail, obviously, that you get with something like Facebook. You're not targeting women who have 2 children under the age of 5, but it's pretty close, and it's a pretty good substitute for stuff like that. And again, all I'm going to say is for this one, log into your account. I'll show you where to go in a sec, of where to go find this list and dig through this list and see, okay, avid investor, that sounds pretty good for me. I'll test showing ads just to people that Google think are avid investors. And again, remember that Google Display Network, you can show both image ads, display ads, and text ads. So you're not showing text ads on google.com. These aren't search ads. These are display ads, but you can show text ads as well as image ads. And we've got a couple of clients for whom text ads do quite a bit better than image ads. And most people forget to run text ads for their display network campaigns. And then our fourth behavior targeting, before we get into the more detailed how-to, this is a fun one. So remarketing lists for search ads. That's what RLSA stands for. And now what we're doing is combining this audience that we've built, which is typically used to show display ads. We're being able to combine that with search ads. 2 main things we might want to do here. Let's do the top one first. So somebody has, let's just walk through this. Somebody has been to your website, and then 3 weeks later, they are still searching for the product or the service that you sell. So let's say you sell, you're a furniture removalist, and somebody has come to your website, regardless of how they got there. We've tagged them, we've put them on a remarketing list, and 3 weeks later, they're still searching for Chicago removalist. So, okay, here's a person that we know knows about us. They've been to our site. On some level, they know, like, and trust us. They're familiar with the logo. And they're still searching. So now this is not a display ad. This is a way to combine this with search. What we can do to Google is say, I want to pay more money for this person. I know they're already familiar with my brand. It's not completely cold, but they haven't filled out any kind of form on my website yet. They haven't come and converted with me, but they're still looking. They're still in this market. Google, I'm prepared to double my bid for this person. I want you to get my ad in front of these few people, this behavior, this different group of people. They've already been to my website and they're still searching for keywords that are the products and the services that I sell. Another great way that you can use this, still at the top here, is potentially then being able to go after keywords that prior to this were too expensive. So a more generic term, so let's say someone is typing in moving. So they're not typing in moving house or moving from Chicago to New York, they're just typing in moving. which you probably wouldn't target with your initial search campaign. It's too broad, it's too vague, it means too many things to different people. There isn't high intent behind a keyword like that. But if someone has already been to your removalist website and then a couple of weeks later they're still searching for something broad like moving, then it might be worth getting in front of these people. So now you're saying to Google, not just increase my bid, but you're saying don't show my ad to these people unless they've been to my website. Now I want to show ads to people searching for these broad, top of the funnel search terms, and here's my bid. So there's a couple of different ways you can use that. And then the bottom example here, maybe you never want to pay again for someone. So we have a client who is an online bank. So by putting the remarketing code in the login area of the online bank, we're able to build a remarketing list, an audience of their members. What we can then do is to combine that list of members with their search ads and say, never show a search ad to someone that's already a member. I'm making money from them. I don't want to waste money. My search ads are about acquisition, not about retention. I only want to show ads to non-members, to people that are not already with me. That makes sense?
That makes sense. And they're two very opposite ways of targeting.
Yes, yeah. And two that rarely get used, particularly the bottom one there. So now let's dig through a little bit of how-to and how to go about setting all of this up. So you log into your AdWords account, and bottom left on the screen, you've got this little link here called Shared Library. This is where all of your remarketing stuff lives, under the Shared Library tab, bottom left. And again, you'll get copies of slides here with all of this, so don't feel like you have to, on another screen, be walking through all this wildly now, trying to keep up with me as I go through this. You'll get copies of the slides, and obviously you'll get the video as well that you can watch again and step through, give it to your staff, create some training, etc., etc. Now on the Shared Library tab, you've got a few choices here. Audiences is the one that you're looking for. So you click on that, and then you're looking for this big blue Setup Remarketing button. If you've never done this before, that's where you want to go. Now you've got a couple of choices here. The easy way is the bottom box here. You can just fill in the email address of your friendly web geek, of your web developer, your niece, whoever looks after your website. Fill that in, send them a little note and say, please do whatever Google tells you to do with this code. And Google will email the code directly to them and give them the instructions to do that. If you've never messed with code, I suggest you do it that way. The other option is the top box there. If you want to, you can view the tag. So the tag is the code. You view the code, and then you cut and paste that, and you go and stick it on your site yourself. You're done. That's the codey part. So the most important thing, and my plea to you today, and I'm going to say this again at the end of the call, but my plea to you today is just to do this bit. If you don't do the rest of what we talk about, create that code today. This is a little bit like that Chinese proverb about planting oak trees. When's the best time to plant an oak tree? Well, the best time is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. When's the best time to create a remarketing code? Well, the best time was about a year ago. The second best time is today. Do this today so you can start to build your remarketing lists, start to build your audiences, even if you don't have a clue how you're going to use this yet. Because in 3 months' time, when things calm down and you're after the Christmas rush and you've got time to sit down and think about this and go back through this training and spend a bit more time on it, at least at that point you will have some lists built up. And it's much more exciting then to be able to start showing ads to 20,000 people, essentially to your own little radio station that you can turn on at will and start showing ads to whenever you want. If you don't do it today, then you'll be starting from scratch in 3 months' time, which is much less fun. And here's what it's going to look like. See, it lands you back on the audiences screen, and now, instead of the big blue button and funny pictures, now we've got an initial list that has been automatically created for us. And what this is going to build a list of everybody. So remember, we had our three main groups of people: everybody, interested people, and buyers. This is going to create an audience of everybody that has been to our site in the last 30 days. So just quickly, we'll talk about membership duration. Brian lands on your website today. 25 days from now, he's still on this remarketing list because he stays on this list for 30 days. At that point, he revisits your website. Well, now he's on day one of visiting your website. So he goes back to the beginning of this list and he's going to stay there again for another 30 days. So 35 days after that, Brian is no longer on your remarketing list. He's fallen off the end. So every time he comes back to the site, he's going to get added to the beginning of this list, and he's going to stay there for 30 days. And if he doesn't come back to the website in those 30 days, he's going to fall off the list and not be on this list anymore. But if he comes back to the site, he's back on this list. Pretty easy. Now what we're going to do is set up another list. Now you will probably want to go and do this a few times, but I'm just going to walk through one here so that you understand how it works. So all I'm doing here is clicking on the big red plus remarketing list button to say I want to create a new remarketing list. And you're going to see a screen like this. You'll notice you didn't see this the first time. Google created the first one for you because it just wants to make things easy for you. But you now know that there's a bit more to this than just showing ads to everybody that's been to my site in the last 30 days. So there might be a few different lists that you want to create. So we go through and fill in some details here, and let's walk through this. First thing is we need to give it a name. So I'm going to create one here called All Site Visitors 540 Days. I'm doing that just so that I remember to tell you that the longest period that you can cookie someone is a year and a half, 540 days. Now, obviously, if they clear their cookies, because this is all cookie-based, if they clear their cookies, then they're going to remove themselves from your remarketing list. But most estimates are only about 20% of people do that. I think 22% was the stat I read the other day. So let's call it an 80-20 rule, and 80% of people don't clear their cookies. So they're going to be on this list for a year and a half. Now, that's not a massively useful list for you to use. You know, someone that came to your website 14 months ago, showing them an ad is probably not going to be worth your while. But every now and again, there are reasons why you might want to do this. Again, it's like building your own little radio station. It would just be nice to have as a fail-safe, as a backup, this big list of 100,000 people that have been to my site in the last year and a half, just in case something bad would have happened. There's a bad news story on 60 Minutes, or our CEO goes and does something stupid, or insert crazy reason here. You might want to tell your side of the story, or maybe you merge with another company, or you have this huge new product that you want to go out and tell everybody about. Well, telling all of the people that came to your site in the last year and a half might be the best group of people to start with. So there's many ways that you could use this. It's not going to be the most useful, but just know that that's the maximum. All right, and then we say web or app. I'm just only going to focus on websites, not going to talk about mobile apps at all today. Who to add to your list? We've got a couple of choices here, but the one you're going to use 99% of the time is the default option there, visitors of a page. So remember I said before that with Google Analytics we can do all sorts of funky stuff. In AdWords, which is what we're dealing with here, the visitors are people that have been to a specific page or pages of your site. And the reason how we tell Google which page or pages, we have to write a little rule. I'll talk about rules in a little bit more detail on the next slide. But here I've just said the URL contains whatever it might be. It might be just the domain name, behavioral management in this case, or that might be blog. URL contains blog, and then that would put everybody that's been to any of your blog pages, assuming they're all /blog/article number 1, they're all in that directory. You could add all of those to people who have read my blog, and you build an audience called people that have read my blog. If the URL contains checkout, then your list name might be people that have visited my checkout page in the last 7 days. So you create a URL rule. You had a membership duration, and you have an optional description. I tend to copy the remarketing list name into description. There's absolutely no reason that you need to do that. We just tend to do it as a standard operating procedure at WebSavvy. You can put anything you like in description. So let me talk about that rule again just for a sec. You've got a few options here. So URL contains is going to be the one that you typically use. So let's talk about thank you pages again. We talked about those before. You might have 3 different thank you pages on your website for 3 different forms that you have throughout your site. And one of them says, thank you for subscribing, and one of them says, thank you for contacting us, and the other one says, thank you for whatever. But they all contain the word thank you in that URL somewhere. So rather than have to build this really complicated rule of equals this big long URL, or equals this big long URL, or equals this big long URL, because that's a bit painful to set up, you can just say URL contains thank you, and that will find all three of those pages and add all of those people to one big list called people that have made it to one of my thank you pages. You've got lots of different options with the rules there, but typically you're going to stick with the contains. It's probably the easiest one. And then you start typing, and this is the one we've done on the previous screen, you just start typing a portion of that URL and Google builds the rule for you. It's pretty easy. And when you've done that, it lands you back on the audience screen where we were before, and it's added this new audience to our list of audiences. And you can go round and round and round and keep doing this if you want to, and build a number of different lists. One that I'm not going to show you the setup for because it's exactly the same as we've just walked through, but one that we often do is to create a list with a membership duration of just 1 day. And the reason we do this is as an early warning system. So you've got a membership duration, it's the same thing. All site visitors, they've been to anywhere on my website. So my rule is just the top level domain, the URL of the site, the domain name. But my membership duration this time is 1. Why do we do that? Because I know roughly how many people come to my, let's say my client's website on average on a particular day. Let's just say it's 300. As a very quick check, whenever I go into the account, or if I'm maybe pulling this information out, you might be using a tool like Clipfolio or dashthis.com or something like that to pull information out of your AdWords account. I can very quickly glance at my 1 day list, and I'm expecting to see a number around about 300. If I see that this has gone down to 0 or a very, very low number, then I know that my web dev is playing silly buggers and has messed with the code on the site. As maybe they've done some update, maybe they've removed the code, but something has gone wrong. So it's a really good early warning system, because if you've only got a 90-day list and your 90-day list is sitting on 100,000, you're not going to notice that that's ticking down and ticking down and ticking down and ticking down. Yeah, that might have to get to 80,000 or maybe 70,000 before that you notice that something's wrong. And by that point, the code might have been missing from the site for a month or more. So the 1 day list is a really nice little early warning system to put in place.
Now, in the larger sphere of things, that's not the only early warning system you put up in your entire business.
Oh,
but
gosh,
it
no.
is, but no. It is certainly, it's just another one of those old things that if anything goes awry or looks like it's gone awry, then you'll notice it instantly.
Correct.
Jan was asking, I'm going to reword Jan's question. Under what circumstances do you show ads to existing customers and existing buyers, and under what circumstances do you not? Oh
gosh,
you exclude them.
I guess it comes.
Did
back
I hand
to
you an
your...
easy question?
Yeah,
thanks,
Jan, and thanks, Brian. It really comes down to the business objectives first and foremost. I mean, that's where we should all be starting. Is what's the objective of the business, and then why do we have a website, and therefore what are the objectives of our website? If acquisition is your sole focus, then as soon as someone has taken action on your site, you may choose to exclude them from seeing any more ads. So one of our display strategies is the conquest strategy. So that says show display ads through one of our targeting methods, be it contextual or topic targeting, something like that, and show ads to everybody Google that you can find, but not all of these people on my all visitor 540 day list that we've got highlighted here, for instance, just as a for instance. So in other words, go show ads to as many people as you can find, but if they've already been to my website, don't show them an ad, because I'm just concerned about acquisition. I think really we've covered a lot of the use cases for that particular campaign. Yeah. Right. Yes, this is all. Well, I'll get into campaign setup and our group setup in a sec. Another thing that I want to mention here, because I know a number of people on the call are familiar with Facebook advertising, and Keith has talked in the past about lookalike audiences. So in Facebook, you can create these lookalike audiences. Well, Google has something very similar. It's called a similar audience. Apologies, I've omitted the slide. As this list builds, and you can see that list size column over there about 2/3 of the way across your screen, as this list builds, as people get added to this list, you'll suddenly see another list, another audience pop up in here, which will say similar to all site visitors 540 days. Again, as a for instance, it doesn't have to be 540 days. I'm just using that as an example because that's the one highlighted. And Google will say, okay, you've got 20,000 people on that list. Based on what I know about those 20,000 people, based on their behaviors, based on the way they act online, I've created another audience for you of what I think are very similar behaviors. Again, all of this comes back to behaviors. So here's 200,000 people that haven't been to your website yet because you haven't cookied them. But I've got this 200,000 people that I think are really, really similar to those 20,000 that you've got cookied. Would you like to go and show ads to these people? And sometimes that can work really well, and sometimes that can bomb. One of the best similar audiences that you can build are people that are similar to your buyers. So one of the audiences we can create here, again, the one highlighted is all site visitors, but one of the other groups that we've talked about is just your buyers. So for instance, that rule might be URL contains success if you're using Magento and you've got that one-page success URL, or URL contains thank you, or whatever it might be. And you're building this list of buyers. You may not want to cross-sell and upsell because that's all a bit too confusing, but Google's gone and found, and it's typically at least sort of 10 times the size. So maybe you've got 5,000 people on your buyers list, and Google's going to say, oh, I've got this 40,000 people, I've got these 63,000 people over here that I think are really similar to your buyers. Would you like to go and show ads to those people? Yes, I would, Google. Thank you very much. We'll build a new campaign for that over here. We'll start targeting those people, and we'll start running ads to those, and we'll see what happens. Can be a very useful thing to try. Now, let's get a little bit more advanced, because I know you want the good stuff. We're going to talk about custom combinations. Now, this is where I tend to lose people, so stick with me. There are two types of custom combo. I'm going to talk about time. So in this example, you can see at the top of the screen our remarketing list name. Again, this can be anything that you want, but I've called this all site visitors 45 minus 15. What on earth am I talking about here? Well, here, first thing I've had to do is I've had to build two lists, and they're the two that you can see in the red boxes. I've got an all site visitor 45-day list and an all site visitor 15-day list. So exactly what we just did on the previous screen, but instead of using 540 days, I've run through this twice, and I've used a different number, a different duration for these two lists. So again, Brian comes to your site today. 14 days from now, he's on both of these lists. 15 days from now, he's on both of these lists. 16 days from now, he's fallen off our 15-day list, but he's still on the 45-day list, and he stays on there until 45 days are up and then falls off the end of that one as well. So far, so good. There's a thing in database analysis and database theory called RFM analysis. It stands for recency, frequency, and monetary. Luckily, we don't need to worry about it because it's kind of confusing. But in essence, what it's saying is that part of it is people that have been to your website more recently are, and it's just common sense, are more likely to want to come back to your website and finish what they were doing. So again, particularly if you're e-commerce, this is going to be absolutely gold for you. Someone that's come through your site, and it doesn't have to be your all site visitor list. Again, this could be your cart abandoned list. But rather than show the same ads over time and bid the same amount to Google of these people that abandoned my shopping cart in 45 days time compared to today, maybe I want to just bid that differently, because I know that the recency is an important aspect here. And actually what I want to do is I want to say to Google, well, I want to bid more for my 15-day crowd, and then I want to bid less over time. So far, so good. The only way you can do that properly is to create this custom combination. And what this says is, build my custom combination of people that are on the 45-day list, but not on the 15-day list. So in other words, I suppose another way to do it would be 16 to 45. Think about it that way. You've got people that have been to your website somewhere between 16 and 45 days ago. And we create this custom combination that says, build a new list of everybody that is on my 45-day list and not on my 15-day list. And a bit of Boolean logic there tells you, okay, what I'm left with are all the people that are only in that little gap between 16 days and 45 days. Because if Brian came to my website 5 days ago, right now he's on both of these lists. Makes sense? You're on the 15-day list, you're on the 45-day list. Therefore, this wouldn't be true, and you wouldn't get added to the 45 to 15-day list. Wouldn't get added to it. Now, on day 20, this would be true. You would be on the 45-day list, and you're not on the 15-day list, so you'd get added to my little custom combination here. So how I then go and use that, and you can see if you look at the default max CPC column there, which we're all familiar with, how much we're bidding, what I'm doing to Google now is I'm saying, okay, if they're on my 15-day list, I want to spend up to $3 a click. And if they're on my 45 to 15-day list, or again, I think another better way I might have put that would be 16 through 45 days, then I only want to bid $2. And then after 45 days, I don't want to show any ads. And you can see some real examples there from this particular account of how well that has worked. And notice that we're not spending a huge amount more, but notice that those people that have been to my site within the last 15 days are much more likely to buy, and my CPA there is $34 compared to 60. What we'll now do, now that we've seen some traction with this one, because this is only a couple of weeks old, this particular group of stats that you're looking at here, what we'll now do is go the next level, and we'll create a 7-day list and another little custom combo there of 15 but not 7, so 15 minus 7, so that we can say to Google, if they're on my 7-day list, I want to bid $4, let's say, and then I've got my custom combo 15 minus 7, we'll keep that at $3, and then my custom combo of 45 minus 15, we'll keep that at $2. Or we might actually reduce that $2 and only offer $1 there, because that CPA is getting a little high. Does that all make sense? I know that's a little confusing, and I've kind of ad-libbed around what's on the screen. So it may be a little confusing.
I'll just make the observation that in the 80-20 of all the factors that determine how valuable customers are going to be to you, there's the amount of money they may or may not have spent, there's how often they come back to your site. The single most important factor, single most solitary, massively top most important factor is how recently did they do business with you, or how recently did they come by and visit. And so what you're doing here is you're setting it up so that the people who have been here been to your site the most recently get the most money funneled toward them in trying to bring them back and make more business happen. And that is absolutely, completely, very, very, totally sensible. And it is totally 80-20.
Yeah.
Because every day that goes by, they become less and less and less and less and less and less likely to buy, and therefore less and less and less valuable to you.
Yes.
Very important.
I'm just going to say yes. I'm not even going to try and add to that. Excellent. All right, let's talk about campaigns. So what do we do to go and actually go build this in the account? Because now we've created some remarketing lists, or again, remarketing audiences, and I would again encourage you to do that part today. This part doesn't need to happen today. So the first thing you're going to go do is build a new campaign for each type of targeting that you're going to do. And actually, you're going to build two. You're going to build one for image ads and one for text ads. So let me flick back to this one. For each type, so we've got remarketing, we've got in-market, and we've got affinity, even if we just went with those. And if you're just going to pick one to start, I would pick remarketing. In-market's awesome, but maybe just start with remarketing. And so you go and click the big plus new campaign button in your account, and you can see here that when I choose type, so the second option down there, I'm going to give it a name. Don't give it a name first, because it's ridiculous. Every time you pick a new thing from that type drop down, it deletes the name again. So get the type right first. You're going to choose display network, and you can stick with all features, but if you're doing a remarketing campaign, you may as well tick the remarketing radio button in there, then give it a campaign name and carry on with the rest of your campaign settings. The reason we do 2 campaigns, one for our image ads and one for our text ads, and I always see these lumped together, is because of this setting. There's a setting called frequency cap, and this is a campaign level setting. And what this does is to limit the number of ads that get shown to people on your list. There's lots of different ways that you can set this. I'm going to give you a couple of rules of thumb. These are not set in stone, but I know you want something to copy to put into your first campaign. So I'm going to say that for your image ad campaign, limit it to 2 impressions per campaign per day when you're starting out. There is nothing more annoying as a user, as a prospect of your website, than I go to your website and then in the next half hour, as I'm browsing around the web and checking sports scores and reading the newspaper online, then I see your ad 57 times in the next half an hour. That's really annoying. That has a negative brand impact. So you want to limit the number of times that you show your ads. And again, you can do this at the ad group level, at the campaign level. You can do it per day, per week, all sorts of settings. I'm going to say, to start off with, just 2 ads per campaign per day. For your image ads, text ads are less intrusive. They're easier to miss. You haven't got the brand, you haven't got the logo there. So I'm going to say you can probably set your frequency cap a little bit higher there, and we'll typically go with 10 per day because they're not as noticeable. Therefore, I'm less likely to annoy people. Again, this is all about reduce the creepy. It's creepy and it's annoying if I see your ads everywhere. And it's not going to work as well for you. So frequency capping is a wonderful thing. And then we go and create 1 ad group for each audience that we want to target. So now let's talk about the ad group setup just briefly. So here you can see I've got 3 different audiences. You can tell by the ad group name. So again, we make the ad group name the same as the audience name. Just makes life much, much easier for you. We've got an added to cart in the last 30 days, a purchase made sometime in the last year, and added to cart sometime in the last year, which we're not too worried about. We're not bidding very much for that, but hey, these are sort of somewhat interested people. There's lots and lots of different ways you can do this. I'm just showing you a little subset of this account. I'm not saying I should, having now noticed that slide, I'm not saying that you wouldn't have a purchase made 30-day list or ad group, but this is just a little snapshot of the account just to show you some of the things that you can do. But the key thing I want to get here is 1 ad group for each audience that you've created, or each custom combo, as we saw previously. Now it's a little bit cumbersome, this, because you have to first of all create the ad group and then go and add the targeting to it. It's a little bit daft. If you're really familiar with AdWords Editor and how to use Excel and AdWords Editor together, then you can speed things up by using AdWords Editor, but I don't want to confuse things by talking about that, because then I know that most of us on the call won't go and do this. I really want you to go do this. So first of all, you create an empty ad group, so you name it appropriately. Then you go and find your display network tab at the top of the screen there. Find the targeting that's listed underneath that, and you select remarketing list. You can see there's all these other things that I can go create here, and just because it's mentioned on there, the video viewers list, one thing you can do with your YouTube ads, which we're not going to talk about today, but Ryan Masters has talked about a lot recently, and done a really, really good job of that. Everybody that watches one of your YouTube ads, you can add to a remarketing list. So there's another remarketing list that you can use inside your account. But let's worry about normal remarketing first. So we've dug into display network. We've said, yep, add some new targeting to this ad group. Remarketing list, please Google. And then we scroll down the list and we go find the particular list that we want. So in this case, it's my people that added to cart in the last 30 days, 22,000 of them, happy days. Click that little chevron to the right of that and add just 1 list to this particular ad group. And then we save that and we're done. This is the in-market one. So here, this is where I've chosen in-market from that initial drop-down, which is the box top left. So instead of choosing remarketing, I've picked in-market. I can go and dig into, so here I've dug into property, I've expanded that, and then I found that, oh, there's a moving and relocation. That's perfect for my relocation and moving client. I'll add that one in-market audience. So I'm not having the whole of property and all of these subcategories. I'm just finding just the one little sub-audience, if you like, and I'm adding that to, and this is for a different ad group, obviously. I haven't shown you every single step here because you're smart, you get it, but this is how I add an in-market audience to an in-market ad group, which is in, of course, my in-market campaign, a different campaign to my remarketing campaign. Hopefully I haven't confused you by skipping straight from one to the other there. I just wanted to show you how to find those in-market audiences in your account. And obviously it's exactly the same for the affinity. You go in, you choose the drop down, you pick one affinity segment, and you add one affinity segment to one ad group at a time. Now, just underneath that, you're going to see this option. This confuses a lot of people, so let's just explain this and walk through this. Target and bid versus bid only. So let's use the option of, let's use this one. Let's use the example of the in-market moving and relocation. So people that Google believe are in the market to move house. Target and bid says to Google, for this ad group, what I want you to do is target the people that you believe are in this particular segment, my moving, in the market to move house. Let's just call them our moving people. Target just the moving people and bid $3 a click, let's say. That's the one you want. By default, for all the stuff we've been talking about, you want target and bid. If you get this wrong and you choose bid only, then Google is going to go and show your ads to everybody out there, but it's going to bid $3 for those people that are in our moving market and bid whatever else you've set your ad group default to for everybody else. You do not want that because that would kind of defeat the purpose of the whole thing. There are times where you want to use that. We're not going to cover those today. For now, just make sure you've got target and bid set. And if you want to know a little bit more about some of the targeting options, what Google used to call Display Campaign Optimizer, which we talked about in the GDM Bootcamp last year, they've now changed the name on that. They waited until we'd written the book to change the name on this, which is really nice of them. They now call it aggressive targeting. So they've got conservative targeting and aggressive targeting. I'm not going to cover that in massive detail because it really isn't going to apply to very many people on the call. If you want to know more, just Google AdWords types of targeting optimization and you'll find this page on the Google Help site. Now I do want to dig into a little bit more detail around RLSA, and then we'll do a few tips around image ads and a few advanced tips. So if you're watching the clock and if you're in Europe and it's bedtime, you've got about half an hour to go. RLSA, remarketing lists for search ads. Well, first of all, do I need to pause here, Brian? Do we have any questions, confusion that needs clearing up, or are we good?
Let's see, some general questions. Michael asks, how much of the ad spend as a percentage do you recommend initially to start with remarketing campaigns?
Well, so when you start out, good question, Michael. When you start out, your remarketing lists are going to be fairly small. Therefore, you won't be able to spend a lot of money even if you wanted to, unless you have a fire hose of traffic coming through your website. But it's going to take a while for these lists to build. So I would say set your campaign budgets relatively high, obviously never more than you can sensibly afford to lose while you're testing and while you're learning. Set them relatively high, but set your bids fairly low just while you're working this out. With remarketing, again, it's generally going to be probably the best non-brand campaign that you can run. It's going to be, in terms of ROI, in terms of CPA, it's going to be one of the best campaigns that you could possibly run. Generally, I want to spend as much as I possibly can on remarketing. And again, if you put frequency capping in place, that limits how many times your ads can show, which further limits how much you could possibly spend. So I actually don't want any limits on it. You probably want a limit on it, again, while you're learning, but I don't want any limits on my remarketing campaigns. So as a percentage of spend, I don't look at it that way. I never look at it that way, because this is a positive ROI exercise. And if you give me $1 and I give you 5 back, why do you want to limit the number of dollars that you give me? You should be asking, how do I legally rob banks to give Mike as many dollars as I possibly can? Because it makes money for me. Again, we talked about it last month, but the vending machine. It's a known quantity and it's making me money every time I do it. So why not do it sometimes?
Got it.
RLSA. First thing you need to decide here is if you need a new campaign or not. And the question you need to ask yourself is, do I need different ads? So there's 2 ways that you can use this. You could build a brand new campaign. So let's take the example before of the moving that we talked about before. In that case, I do need a new campaign, because this is not a keyword that I was going to bid on. I'm only bidding on it if someone has already been to my site. So in that case, I need a new campaign with my new keyword list, because remember, these are search ads, not display ads, with a new keyword list and a new set of ads in there. And I say to Google, again, target and bid, remember, and only show my ads if they're on my remarketing list and here's how much I'm prepared to bid. Now, the other way you can use this is you can use RLSA as a layer on top of an existing search campaign. One way we'll often use this is for a brand campaign. So we always bid on a client's brand. There's a whole bunch of reasons. I'm happy to argue that point if you want, but let's just assume it's a given. So they're bidding, let's say, 50 cents a click on their brand. Now, if somebody is on my, let's say, all site visitor 15-day list, in other words, if they have been to my website recently and they're still searching for my brand, then I might say to Google, actually, I want to bid a little bit more. So how do we do that? In that case, I would have a bid only setting. I would add an audience to my existing ad group. So I go to my audiences tab, I find the audience. So sorry, in this case, also is a 30-day. I've got 11,000 of those. I'm saying layer those 11,000 over the top and up the bids 10% for these guys. So your bid adjustment here can be from minus 90% to plus, I'm pretty sure it's plus 900% for RLSA. RLSA has slightly different rules to some of the other bid mods, but I'm pretty sure it's plus 900. It might be plus 300. I may have to check that. I'm pretty sure it's plus 900. This is the super conservative way. I would typically go a little bit more than that, but you know, I want to start with the conservative ones. You can always wind this up later on. So just to recap, what are we doing here? Show ads to everybody that's searching for my brand. But if they've been to my website in the past 30 days, then Google, I'm offering 10% more or 25% more or 200% more per click to get these guys to see my ad again. And this is how much I'm going to pay if and when they click. Hopefully that makes sense. Now let's get a little bit more advanced with RLSAs, because this one I love, and I see this in less than 1% of accounts, literally. So if you're doing this for clients, they are going to love you when you do this, particularly if they've got a fair bit of traffic. As with any campaign in your account, there is a big red exclusions button. If you scroll down a little bit towards the bottom of the screen, there's a big red exclusions button. So what we might want to do here, again, this is the RLSA example, but what I might want to do is to stop showing those brand ads if people have converted in the last 30 days. That would make sense, right? I'm paying for all this traffic. They're searching for me by name, but I've got this group of people, about a quarter of them, that have actually converted. They've been to one of my thank you pages. I don't want to keep showing ads to those people. So I scroll down, I find exclusions. I choose remarketing lists from the options for my exclusions. I find the correct remarketing list that I want to add, in this case, people that converted in the last 30 days, and I click the little chevron and I add that. And this is what it looks like when you've done that. And this means that those people will not see. So even if they go in and type the name of your brand, They will not see your ad because Google says, aha, yep, I know you. You've already done what this guy wants you to do. Not going to bother showing an ad. So you're saving budget for those people that haven't yet converted. And if you're running brand, you know you probably have a large number of clicks. They're cheap clicks, but you probably have a large number of clicks coming through that campaign. This is a way just to take that performance up a notch. Where the benefit of this really is again, this is the 80-20 rule. So you'll find often that a brand campaign might be 10% of the spend in an AdWords account, but it might be responsible for, let's just say, 80% of the leads, of the value created. Well, if you are going to apply a lever to one campaign, do you want to apply it to the campaign that creates 5% of the overall value or 80% of the overall value? Because if we can increase the effectiveness of this campaign by 10, 20, 50%, we have a massive impact on the account overall. And again, your client's going to love you. You look like a rock star.
By the way, Jan types in bingo! Exclamation point, all caps.
Happy days, Jan. Go look like a rock star. Love it. Okay, this should probably have 3 huge asterisks next to it, but policy, privacy policy. When you use remarketing, and I showed before the Google Analytics option in particular, but if you're using remarketing in general, make sure you or your client changes the privacy policy on the website. So search for this phrase on Google is the easiest way to find this. I didn't want to give you a big long URL, but just search for what to include in your privacy policy for remarketing. And Google do a really good job there of laying out those 4 bullet points of all the things you need to include. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. You may want to consult your own legal counsel on this, or just saying, just between friends, hypothetically, you might want to go and find a really good advertiser, maybe in your industry, that does a really, really good job of remarketing, and you might want to go and look at what they've got in their privacy policy, and you might want to swipe and deploy. Just saying. But you probably want to get legal help. But I'm not going to tell you any more about that because I'm not legal help. Change your privacy policy. Make sure you are within Google's rules, because most of the time I see this and it hasn't been done, and technically you're breaching AdWords terms of service, and technically you could get your account banned. All right. Now, again, this is a subject that we could probably spend an hour on. I'm going to give you my best of the best bits around image ads in 3.5 minutes. There are a bunch of places that you can go to create image ads. The cheap version is Mini Banners Zen or $20 banners. One of the benefits of both of these is they have dozens and dozens and dozens of pages in the portfolio. You can see that portfolio link right at the top there on the leftmost end of the top nav on $20 banners. They both have a huge portfolio. So if you really don't know where to start, you can start by going and looking at ads that have been created for other people, print them out, maybe cut and paste those into a Word doc or whatever you want to do, and go, yep, I really like this. I like this one. Yep, we'll do something a bit like that later. So that's a good place to go for inspiration, and or a place that you can go and get banners created cheaply. You can get them done for free in AdWords. So you go to your Ads tab, you click on the big red plus Add button, and you find the Ad Gallery link, 3rd one down. And then Google's got a whole range of templates that you can choose from. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to focus on the bottom middle one there, the general purpose ads. You click on that, and then it gives you a whole bunch more of templates within that. So you can see here traditional, sleek, nostalgic, blank, minimalist, and elated, which is, you know, we've all seen that chick. Don't use that one. I don't like stock photos. Generally, I like images that don't look like stock photos that I can get for free from stock photo sites. But don't use the ads that look stock. Now, having said that about stock, what Google have now done, so you can pick one of these, pick a design, and then you can go in here and you can create this design. Now, it's not the world's best ad designer, but it is free. So you can see there that I've got on the right-hand side, I can preview different sizes. Over on the left-hand side, you can see that I can change the headline, the description, the text of that green button. I can change the color of that green button. I've chosen a purple background there because my daughter loves purple. You can change the display URL. There's even an animation option there at the top, so you can go pretty deep with this. What I'm going to point to here, though, is the image, that product image there. Under that update image, I can load up an image from my computer, or I can choose stock image gallery. Facebook have this same option. I can't remember who it's with, begins with S, but they have a stock image thing that they do. Google now has the same thing. So you can click that little drop down, choose stock image gallery from there, and a whole range of categorized and searchable images that you can go choose from. So all of those blue links at the top are the main categories. Because it's the end of October, I've typed in Halloween up there, and Google's given me a whole stack of images that I may want to then go choose and drop into my ad. Just don't use the picture of the chick with her hands in the air or the two old guys shaking hands wearing blue suits, because they're the hardest working old guys in the world. They're on 20,000 websites. Pick something that you haven't seen before. But that is a fabulous resource to quickly go and create image ads. I don't have a slide for it here, but you may want to write down this URL. She gets busy every time we talk about the display network, but banneradqueen.com. Our great friend Laura Hussman, who is a fantastic designer, but more importantly, she understands differences. I'm going to talk about big differences in a second, but banneradqueen.com is another way that you're going to pay more than $20 banners. To be honest, not much more. She's too cheap, and she's very, very good. So a couple of advanced
She's a good friend of Perry's and mine, and she understands Planet Perry people, and she understands AdWords advertisers. Enough said.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Worth your weight in gold, as opposed to starting afresh with someone on Fiverr. So a couple of extra tips around image ads. The way we do this, and I've been teaching this for, I don't know, 5 years or more, is the opposite of the way most media buyers do it and most full service agencies do it, because what they will do is come up with one, maybe two different ideas for an ad, and then roll those ads out in all, I think we're up to 18 standard IAB sizes. And they'll charge you a mozza to do it, but they'll go and create this beautiful looking ad, maybe even a flash ad, because they haven't quite worked out that they don't show on iPhones and iPads yet. And they'll go and create those in all of these different sizes. It's fabulous, charge you heaps of money, job done. And then you work out that this actually doesn't convert very well and that it wasn't a very good ad. So the only people that should be deciding which ad you show is not the graphic designer. As talented as Laura is, she doesn't know which of the 10 ads that she creates for us is going to win. The hippo, you know who the hippo is, it's the highest paid person's opinion. The hippo doesn't know which ad is going to win, but typically the hippo gets to choose that one ad. Oh yeah, my wife likes purple, we'll have that ad over there, please. The only person that matters is your customer, is your prospect. So what I want you to do is not create 1 or 2 ads in 18 different sizes, but to go create 18 ads, or 50, or 6, but more than 2, please, all in the same size. And the best trade-off between showing the ad a lot and getting some conversions is what's called a medrec, or a medium rectangle. It's 300 by 250 pixels. That's the size of the ad. So 300 by 250, all the same size for now. All static for now. Don't bother animating them yet, because you don't know what works and what doesn't yet. And we've said this many, many times. Thank you for throwing Banner Queen in the chat box, Brian. It's awesome. We've said this many times in the past. If you test big enough differences and big enough ideas in the ad, then typically the difference between loser and winner is going to be 300–400%. There's a huge range there, and you will not know before you start which one's the winner, which one's the loser. When you've found the 2 or 3 winners of the dozen or so that you start with, then you can go create different sizes of that winning ad. Then you can go animate it if you really want to, or then you can go and test iterations on those winning ads, slight changes in the image, slight changes in the headline or the call to action, say. But to begin with, test hugely different ideas. So example, because everyone says, what do you mean by big ideas, Mike? Well, here's an example. of some ads that we did for a fairly prominent real estate guy here in Australia who teaches, I think, in America as well, a guy called Rick Otten. He created this new book that he wanted to go and give away on the Google Display Network. And these are the ads that Laura created for us to use for Rick. Now you can see many of them feature a picture of the book, but not all of them. One of them, bottom right, features Rick, but not all of them. Some of them have pictures of houses in because it's about buying a house. Some of them don't. Some of them feature the dollar coin. Some of them don't. Some have a free download button. Some don't. They're all quite different. They're all the same offer. It's all about grabbing the free chapter or the free book. I think, yeah, just a free chapter in this case. But so a whole separate group of 9 ads can be used to give away a free book, and we can test 2 completely different offers. But these are all the same thing, free download of a chapter, but lots and lots of different ways of showing the same thing. Now, I'm not going to tell you which one won and which one lost because that's private information to Rick. The point is, we tested a lot of different ideas. Here's another example that we did for an insurance company here in Adelaide in Australia. So 3 main headlines. We actually tested 9 versions of the ad, but these 3 will give you the idea. What we did was mix and match the 3 little images that you can see, bottom right, with the 3 speech bubbles. So we had wow with crazy lady, we had wow with the couple, and we had wow with megaphone guy, and then we had save with crazy lady, save with the couple, save with, and so on and so on and so on. Mix and match all these things. We actually tested 9, but I'm showing you those 3. Here's the results of those 3, and we can see here that the one at the top was actually twice as good in this case as the one at the bottom. So there's not a huge difference here. There's not big differences in design like Rick's ads. It's a very, very similar template, but we're just testing what's the little image and what's the headline. And in this case, what these guys did with that was turn that winning ad, use the data that we'd collected, which is market research data, not opinion research. I didn't wander down the website, sorry, I didn't wander down the high street with a clipboard with these 3 images on it and say, excuse me, which one of these 3 ads would you click given the option? Because that isn't going to get me very useful data. Surveys are biased and they give false positives and all sorts of problems with that. I'm testing people and they don't know they're being tested and they're voting with their mouse. And I'm only looking through, this is click-through rate, by the way, in case you're wondering what the number is. So I'm keeping an eye on conversion rate, but I'm really interested in click-through rate at this point. It is not the be-all and end-all of display network advertising, obviously, but when I'm trying to decide which of these different ads are most attractive to, most appealing to my target market, I'm interested in click-through rate. And if I've got one that's twice as good as another one, well, that's the one that became the billboard in the centre of Adelaide.
And the
market research.
And these were all split tested against each other within the same ad group, the same campaign.
Correct. Yes. We loaded all 9 ads into the one ad group and let them run against each other on rotate.
And ditto with what was his name, Rick Otten ads.
Yes.
Got it.
So and those 9 ads may be in more than one ad group because we've got, let's say we're doing contextual targeting, which we did for Rick. We might have 1,000 ad groups. We're putting all 9 ads in every single one of those 1,000 ad groups. So obviously for that, you're not using the AdWords interface. You're using something like AdWords Editor, which takes about 3 seconds to do that. And you're putting the ads on rotate. And then you're pulling all of that data. You've got to do some funky stuff and Excel and pivot tables. I talked about that in the Display Network Bootcamp if you're really interested in digging deep into that. But this is great. And I think we're going to see this a lot more as these big companies that do all of this brand advertising and never test anything. I think we're going to see this a lot more. You could use this to test billboards. You could use this to test the print ad that's going to go in that really expensive magazine that's going to cost your client 30 grand. And right now the graphic designer is designing that thing and it's never been tested. A couple of other things that you can include in your ads or test of whether or not these make a big difference. Hand-drawn elements. My good friend Andre Chaperone does this really, really well with the stuff that with his landing pages and with the unusual images that he uses. Direct marketers have been doing this for 100 years. That little hand-drawn arrow with the little scroll next to it to really grab someone's attention. They can work fantastically well in image ads. Always include a button. You and I both know that it doesn't matter where they click on that ad. There isn't an actual button there. But the fact that it looks like a button, and you saw some of those on the example with Rick, the fact that it looks like a button, that mental heuristic, that little shortcut in the brain of, oh, I need to click that, it's a button. Include a button in all your ads. And if you can, get the word free in there, because that usually increases click-through rate, assuming that you've got an offer where that is appropriate. Quick little word on exclusions. So we've talked about excluding an audience, but there are some other exclusions, and again, this is sort of more general Google Display stuff, but worth mentioning here because you're probably going to want to add these exclusions to all of your behavioral targeting campaigns that you're about to go set up. So the top 6 there are pretty standard. We tend to exclude these from every campaign we set up. So this is saying to Google, you're going to follow these people around, and you're going to show these ads on site. We don't want you to show them on sites next to this type of content. You'll see screenshots of this stuff on the web all the time. There was one here, quite famous. There was a Aussie Home Loans had a campaign around beat the credit card sharks, and the screenshot went around and around of their ad showing next to the newspaper article about the 14-year-old boy that got attacked by the shark. That is not good branding. You don't want your ads to show next to content like that. I know they say all PR is good PR. That's probably not good. So telling Google not to show your ads next to articles about death and tragedy, probably a good thing. So those top 6, you'll find them in the exclusions at the bottom of your display network targeting options. The other 2 that we tend to add there are in-game and this mobile app nonsense down the bottom there. So we tend to exclude those 8. Again, you'll get the slides with a copy of that on. We can also exclude ads from showing on certain placements. Talked about this one before, but this is a writer-downer. AdSense for mobileapps.com. You want to exclude your ads from showing almost certainly, unless you're trying to get, you're trying to show ads in apps, maybe for your own app, in which case ignore this bit, but for everybody else, you don't generally want to show your ads in apps because you'll get loads and loads of clicks and you'll waste a boatload of money. I think there was actually somebody who posted either in my Display Network Bootcamp Google group the other day, or it might have even been in the bobsled group. Sorry, I can't remember which one, but they had wasted a ton of money and then logged in and found that actually Google was showing all these ads in the wrong place. And this is a really, really good way of immediately excluding your ads from showing in all of those placements. And surprisingly little known trick. I've seen whole discussions from this in AdWords forums by supposed professionals talking about how do I stop ads showing on mobile? Oh, you just need to turn mobile off. Well, no, I don't want to turn mobile off completely. I just don't want to show in apps. And this is the way that you do it. AdSense for mobileapps.com. Add that as an excluded placement. So in other words, you're saying to Google, don't show ads on these domains. And you might want to test this one. So there is another option. So where we did the exclusions before, the death and tragedy and all those bits, there is an exclusion there of below the fold. So in other words, you can exclude below the fold, almost like a double negative. In other words, only show my ads above the fold, please Google. So for your remarketing campaigns in particular, this is often an interesting one to test. You certainly don't need to start with this in place, but it's an interesting one to test. Run it for a couple of weeks, turn this exclusion on, run it for another couple of weeks, see if there's a big change in results. Okay, and last one, I'm not going to dig deep into this because this, again, is another topic that we could spend an hour on, and we did in the Display Network Bootcamp, but you can combine different targeting options. You can layer these over each other, and many, many different ways that you can do this, but just know that you can combine your remarketing lists or any of the other targeting options that we've talked about with other types of targeting. So with some placements or with gender and age and all sorts of different ways that you can do that. Just know that that is possible and then promptly forget that. Okay, quick recap. We'll take a couple of questions if needed to. And I'm going to ask you for a favor at the end here if that's okay. My plea is that you go and install remarketing code today. Okay, if it's 5 to midnight, maybe tomorrow. But please get that on your site as soon as possible. Worry about how you're going to use it later on. Set up at least one new campaign. So you don't have to go wild and crazy, but if you're going to set up that remarketing code, then just dive in. It'll take 10 minutes, set up a remarketing text ad campaign, because that's easier to get going than image. Image is probably going to work better for you, but set up a quick text campaign, even if it's just got one ad group in there. Remember, one targeting option per ad group. And if you really want some bonus points, go test a few different image ads, whether you go build them for free in the ad gallery, whether you go to $20 banners and get some done cheaply, or whether you go to Laura, who is a little bit more expensive, but really too cheap for what she provides. And the favor that I'm going to ask you for, if this is okay, is if this has been useful for you, if you've got some value out of this, then I would love a quick little review on my Google Plus page, because I'm doing an experiment there, which I'll share in the mastermind group in a few weeks once I've got some data to show. But the first thing I need is a few little reviews over there. So if this has been useful, if you feel like giving us a review, hopefully a positive one, that would be nice, then that little short URL code there will get you to my Google Plus page, and I thank you in advance if you are able to spend 30 seconds of your life doing that. That would be lovely. And I am done.
All right, a couple questions for you. First, Martin, I want to make sure I understand what Martin's asking here. Dynamic remarketing is mainly images. Is there a suggested impression capping for dynamic remarketing?
Yeah, because it's images, I would keep it fairly low. You might want to start out a little more aggressively, so maybe set it to 4 or 5 per campaign per day. But I wouldn't normally go more than 5 for any image ad campaign.
4 or 5 per campaign per day. Okay, Martin says thank you. So can you reiterate just basic for Naomi and for some others, what are brand campaigns again?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so there are 2 basic types of, and sorry for the jargon and lingo, because that's what we call them inside the agency here. 2 basic types of search ad campaigns: brand and non-brand. So brand is, if I was Brian, I might choose to run search ads, and the brand in that case might be Perry Marshall. That might be my keyword. So people searching for me by name or the name of my business, the brand. Non-brand search is the products and services that you sell. Chicago removalist, for instance. So that's what I mean by brand and non-brand.
Got it. So brand is targeting people who are searching for your name or searching for the name of your company.
Macy's would set up a brand campaign for Macy's, Macy's New York, where can I find Macy's, all that stuff, and then the non-brand campaigns that they would set up would be all of the stuff that they sell.
Excellent. That makes perfect sense. Stephen asks, if you sell insurance, or if we sell insurance, can we remarket for a month and then wait 12 months and remarket to these people again? How would we do that?
Stephen, have you been through Display Network Bootcamp? You're a smart man. So we've got a client that we do this exact same thing with. We remarket for a month. And so the way that we do this is we build 2 additional lists. Let's just call them my 13-month list and my 11-month list. Because what I want to do is I want to create a little window in the future between 11 months and 13 months where I want to show ads again to people. Why would I want to do that? Well, I know that they're on my site now, and I know that people typically that on my site are going to buy insurance in the next 4 weeks. It may be with me. That would be lovely. It may be with someone else. They might be price shopping. They might have whatever reason they're doing. I know that the majority are actually going to buy with someone else. But
and then they're going to
a year from now,
in 12 months.
A year from now, they are going to be in the market again. And if they haven't bought with you, you know nothing about them. But yes, you can add them to a long-term remarketing list. And in maybe sort of 11 months' time, hence my 11 to 13-month window here, in 11 months' time, I want to start showing ads to those people. But I want to stop again in 13 months' time because I don't want to keep running ads forever and ever and ever and ever. So to do that, you build 2 lists, a 13-month list and an 11-month list. You build that custom combo. Showed you how to do that. so that you are only showing ads to people in that little window in time. And that is a way of not showing ads until we get to the 11-month point. Great question. Really useful way to use custom combos.
Excellent. 13-month list, 11-month list, and a custom combo setup.
And
Good.
you only add the custom combo to your ad group. So you only use the two lists to create the custom combo, and the custom combo is the only audience that you add. So you only have one ad group, and the targeting for that one ad group is the custom combo. You don't use the 13 or 11-month lists anywhere else. You just use them to build the custom combo.
Excellent. Your instruction, your instruction to set up remarketing tracking or code on your pages. Michael just wants to be sure, are you using the remarketing code on all the pages of the site in addition
Yes.
to the landing page and the thank you page and so on?
Every single page, just like your Google Analytics code, every single page of the site. So lots of different ways you can do that, but give it to your friendly web geek and have them do it. You can use Google Tag Manager if you really want, but yes, every single page of the site.
Okay, last question, general question from Rafal asking, how does Google Display Network compare to Perfect Audience, AdRoll, etc.?
Okay. I hate AdRoll with a passion, not least because of the way they count conversions. So there is a thing called, and we'll talk about this on the next call, and talk about conversions in a bit more detail, but there is a conversion, there's two types of conversions really. There's, did they click on my ad and come through and buy, or did they just see my ad in passing and then happen to buy through another channel later on? That's called a view-through conversion. So in Google, those view-through conversions, that's an extra column that you need to add to your stats. They don't use that by default because it's basically akin to cheating. You know, I might have 1,000 people that saw my ads. 10 of them clicked and some of them bought. But there's all these people that maybe saw those ads in passing, maybe didn't even glance at the ad, but it got served to them, and then they wandered back 15 days later via an organic search and they came and bought. Well, the view-through conversion in that case is what's going to get triggered. By default, AdRoll count those view-through conversions. That's their default conversion. And I've had a stand-up argument with an AdRoll rep who says it's possible to turn that off. I haven't found how to do it. I've Googled it. I've dug around in the AdRoll interface. Apologies if there's no, I'm not going to apologize for AdRoll reps. If you're on the call, bloody make it more obvious. Let me turn off view-through conversions because it's cheating. It's not giving me an accurate picture of how my ads are performing. And for that reason alone, I hate AdRoll. You're going to get a lot less control in AdRoll. So AdRoll make it easy to remarket. You know, you put AdRoll code through your site, and then they say, yeah, we can advertise anywhere on the GDN, anywhere on Facebook, and we've even got these other second-tier networks over here, 35 of them or whatever it is these days, that you can show your ads on. Well, we went to them and said, well, actually, we're doing GDN really well, so please turn that off. Client doesn't want to do Facebook yet, so please turn that off. We just want to run on your second-tier 35 networks, whatever they are over here. They said, yeah, sure, not a problem. 4 weeks later, we had a handful. I mean, we were not even into triple figures of impressions, never mind clicks. There is so little traffic out there. Now, this was a year ago. Maybe things have improved, but really, their main source of traffic is Google Display and Facebook. You're going to do a much, much better job if you do your remarketing natively inside those two things. Follow Keith's advice and all the way he does Facebook remarketing inside of Facebook. See, AdRoll started because you didn't used to be able to do that. If you wanted to remarket on Facebook, you had to use AdRoll or Perfect Audience. And they just went very, very aggressive. Lots of sales guys, nice, easy to use, nice, pretty looking interface. But what comes with easy to use is a lack of complexity, which generally means a lack of ROI. So that was a rant. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to rant.
Right.
I would not use them. I just would not use them.
Got it. One last question. We got to move on, or we have to close out for the evening. Gil asks, on e-commerce sites, does your code go on each product page too?
Yes. Yep. Every single page of the site, every product page, every shopping cart step, every thanks page, receipt page, shipping page, returns page, the lot, which your web dev will be able to do for you reasonably easily. They'll just stick it in the footer template or something like that, or they'll use Google Tag Manager. Again, very easy to do every single page, just like analytics.
Very good. If you got a question and this didn't get answered tonight, then head over. If you're a Mastermind member, you can head over to our Mastermind forum and post it there, and either Mike or some other very smart person on the forum will probably be able to answer the question for you. So, Mike, thank you, and we look forward to the next session, which is in just a couple of weeks, actually. So
it is.
We'll keep you posted. Mike, thank you very much, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye
Cheers.
now.